The Lord Christ Jesus is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall continue to follow me all the days of this protracted experience of death, and I will dwell in the house of the most super intelligent power, source, and force of love and creation forever. What's happening? Benson here. Just rolled out, fueled up, and rolled out. Somali pirate parked in the ingress and the egress of the truck stop. Hey, he's the captain now. He owns everything. He's done pirated the whole country. Somali pirate and pirated the whole country. How about that? And I guess that's, why am I able to laugh at that? I guess because of an understanding. Good morning, Salia, indeed. We got 426 miles to go. Then I'm supposed to deliver this load and get loaded for the weekend. I don't know how it works, but apparently the company's gotten put onto a bunch of loads coming out of Memphis going up to Illinois. They must be paying pretty good. I'll believe it when I see it. They told me weeks ago they were going to put me on these, 300 something mile runs and then come back empty. Yeah, okay. I'll believe it when I see it. That's what they say is going to happen. The company. I'm starting to think this is this ain't exactly a trucking company in the traditional sense. Not like an American thinks. Oh, this is exactly as presented. That's the motto of America. Let's call it. That should be the slogan of the country. Exactly as presented. Right. Just take it all at face value. Right. And I don't know if it's about it was a trucking video and talking about these foreign drivers and supposedly they're cleaning up the industry and all of this. Somebody posted a description of various criminal enterprises involved in money laundering using thousands of motor carriers and MC numbers in the US and then buying like just lots of trucks and trailers back during the so-called, when the false, the fake trucking boom because of the pandemic. But he's not a result of some of that. I have no idea. I can't say. specification. I understand business well enough to say, well, how are some of these things happening? Am I really just, am I considered such a valuable potential resource as a, native born American who's willing and able to live in a truck, do these things? It's just like, okay, well, they're happy to let me tolerate all sorts of foolishness on the job, but then I quit the job 3 different times and they talked me into coming back, and then I just say no to stuff. At least it cut well and had now I got the first blemish on my record, which does kind of play into the company's hands. It makes me more likely to stay here working than to go somewhere else. So I was driven forth as a beast of burden, white nigger coolie style. And, that continues to some extent. But, I mean, if they actually put me on these loads they're claiming to put me on, it's like, I'm going to get paid the same and just, whereas before I was having to kill myself and break my back, and now it's easy peasy, life's free and easy. I don't know, man. Is this even real? Waking dreams, surrealistic, unreality, deja vu all over again, perhaps. And remember, kids, to be an American is to do what you're told. Americans do as they're told. They don't rebel. I hate this phrase, stand up, but let's bottom line this. Because most of the time we hear the concept of, oh, stand up, and it's all collective, and, we're all in this together, and strength in numbers. And no, I'm talking about standing up for oneself in one's own so-called life, right? No matter how that is. So, the obese Landwell, waddling into the truck stop, and I'm about to go get in my truck and leave, and I just see this guy, he's dying. His body's shutting down. I gave him a little pep talk. Right? Do you think anybody else is going to give him a pep talk? No, they're going to pat him on his little head. They're going to rub his back. They're going to eat Popeyes with him, drink soda with him, and tell him it's not his fault. It's his trauma, or it's this, or it's that. Motherfucker, get busy living or get busy dying. Make the tree good or make the tree rot. You're going to do it, do the damn thing. Hell, he's driving a truck. Fucking drive a truck for 6 months and then go eat fast food for 6 months. See if you can survive that, partner. You won't be able to get back in that truck. That's probably the only thing keeping him alive is he's got to physically climb into that truck. And he can't get in the trailer. We know that, not without maybe a step ladder, but whatever small amount of physical, he's got to be able to do certain things, right? And folks don't like when I brag around here. It sounds like bragging to me. It's just normal. And Chalk Body Outline covered this idea that in the not so distant past, just your average American was fairly fit and physically capable. And, so when I'm in the truck stop and I catch sight of myself in the mirror, and it's like, that's a damn athlete right there. I look like an athlete. It's like, yeah, that's not supposed to be unusual. Like, how come unless I'm in Los Angeles, especially if I'm in the middle part of the country, if I see any male anywhere near my age, they look like the opposite of an athlete. Now, the blacks, that's different. I'm talking about the white folks. The blacks, they go either way. And every once in a while, you'll see some, big bad John type of motherfucker. That's not too often. I'm just a dude. I wasn't the fucking, king shit of the county or whatever. Like Big Bad John, broad at the shoulder, narrow at the hip. You better not give no lip to Big John. Right. I sped up a little bit to get in front of a different land well, older guy. The one that's about to die is probably in his 30s. This guy was a little older, so I scooted past. I hastened my pace, kind of bounced up the stairs. I looked back at him. I said, "Look, you look like you're about to have a damn heart attack trying to get up these stairs." He's like, "Who are you talking to?" I said, "Man, I don't, it's like, I guess if I'm not describing you, I guess I'm not talking to you then. I mean, you either fit the bill or you don't, partner." None of this is to solve anything. It's not going to do anything. It's righteous. You know, how is it loving and tolerant to watch land beasts waddling around and just treat them like that's normal and it's okay because feelings. And look, I don't even eat yourself to death. Not you, the listener. I don't care if he eats himself. What do I care? Go ahead. And then wonder why there's foreign drivers because half these Americans look like they're about to drop dead any minute. If it was a physically fit nation, healthy mentally, spiritually, and physically, would most of these things be happening? And I'm not advocating for any kind of collectivism. Let's come together, fix the country. This is a thought experiment. I'm speculating as to what makes sense to you, right? Well, individuals must do better, right? Individuals must do better. Now, there's nothing compelling them to do better. They don't have to do better. I'm saying that anybody that wants to loop into some group level problem solving, like our friend Freedom Grower, old Dick, he seems to be one of the worst offenders. And I don't have a particular bone to pick with him, but he knows a convenient example. Hey, Dick, did you talk to the criminal? Did you go tell the criminals, the ones who are causing all of this? Did you tell them to get their shit together individually, not collectively? Don't join a fucking club. Don't look to the left and look to the right. I'm talking about you, motherfucker. Did you go talk to the criminal? I just talked to 3 of them at the truck stop. 4. Now the foreigner just stood there and giggled at me because he knows it's just all a joke. The foreign driver comes here and then does whatever he wants. I'm the captain now, Somali pirate. And then, maybe once a year, somebody like me just walks right up to him and says, "What country are you from?" And he starts giggling and says what I think was Somalia. I don't know or care. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. And I don't have a bone to pick with foreigners. I said, I just need you to know I'm better than you. Because if I was born in Somalia, they would have kept me because they need strong, capable men. You, on the other hand, they shipped over here to stand here and giggle and, sleep overnight in your truck parked in the entryway and the exitway, blocking everything. Right? That's your function. And by the way, the local women of the village said, "What can we do to get this fella how can we just go ahead and matriculate him as far away from us as possible?" Think about that. Women looking at their men saying, "Well, we'll keep some of these, but then we got a contingent over there. Let's just mosey them on out of the country." Right? And if they want to send money and get involved in various scams, that's okay with us. But we're going to keep the certain faction of them over here for us. So I'm the faction that would have got kept, right? So therefore, I'm better than them because I'm making it happen in my country. They left their country because they couldn't make it there. Do you think they wanted to come here? They wanted to stay there and make it. It wasn't possible. Now we can say, oh, it's oppression, it's political, it's this, it's that. You gonna tell me that doesn't exist here? You gonna tell me I'm not oppressed, motherfucker? Oh, well, you can't be oppressed. Why? Why not? So how I look, that is oppression. If you're telling me I can't be oppressed solely based on how I look and what's between my legs, motherfucker, that is oppression. Dummies. Use your head, and I'm not talking to the listener. Use your head for more than a hat rack. That is oppression. You're telling me that because of what I look like and what's between my legs, in fact, not only am I not oppressed, that ain't even possible. Well, that is oppression. So they tell you that the system tells me that I can't possibly be oppressed while it's oppressing me, because the system makes an enemy of what I am. And like it or not, men like me represent the highest, well, the least low form of that here. So it oppresses them the most, not the women, not the LGBT, not the black folks. Now, we might have to carve out an exception for the black folks, but let's face the reality that in 2026, it's increasingly, I go into a Walmart first thing in the morning, and I'm, other than the white boys they're used to seeing, I'm the only white boy in there. And the crowd that I would refer to, oh, there's a knife for groceries. The crowd that I would refer to as ethnically diverse, well, that doesn't quite pertain, because where's the white folks? But, they look at me and react to me in very specific ways, and it ain't nothing nice. Right? Because somehow I'm the Mr. Peanut of, I'm here on behalf of fucking David Rockefeller himself, apparently. They do everything short of ask me for a dime. Right? Where's the media presence saying, oh, are you going to poor downtrodden street urchin a dime? Oh, yes, thank you for reminding me. Has anybody gone back and checked out those news stories? Rockefeller in the streets, handing out dimes here and there. Old man Rockefeller. Now I'm in a fucking super center in 2026, and I'm being, the fucking populace is reacting to me. Meanwhile, back in the 20s or whatever, they had respect. Not that they should, but they seemingly had respect for these rich folks. And now that was the American dream, right? Do more for less, and then eventually maybe the individual will be able to experience relative affluence, or to live something that looks wealthy, right? And a big part of that psyop, in my view, is this idea of these, robber baron types, being kind of accepted and celebrated in certain ways. So miss me with all this, we got to do this and we could do that. Whatever somebody's about to say, when they go in, when they loop into we level problem solving, none of it's possible, because whatever they're proposing as a solution is 100% contingent upon individuals have to do better. And until you can show me a path that indicates that might possibly happen, why would I entertain we level problem solving? And I put it to Dick, and he basically just said, well, what are you going to talk about then? Like, if not that discussion, oh, we're just having a discussion. It's like, well, okay. There could be a discussion about any number of things. Why can't the discussion be individuals must do better? Well, that's a non-starter, as we all know. That's a non-motherfucking starter. You can't. It's not possible to go around and just bury my finger in every individual's chest and say, hey man, how about you get your shit together? Right. How about you do that? There's drunks on the road, and we're in a wall of death construction zone. Uh, Having to watch everything very closely because we're dealing with impaired individuals. It takes them a long ass time to figure out what's going on. Of course, I see everything immediately, as long as it's not a Corvette in my blind spot, apparently. Well, now that I've been brought out of my discourse by the pressing matters of the job, um, after we finally got loaded, after a series of misadventures, eventually got loaded and hit the road. And some completely unnecessary delays getting through Kansas City. It's just mainly based on individuals just being out of it, just a general out of itness. Generalized out of itness. Miss me with that. Then there was I guess there was a wreck, maybe in a construction zone. It was unclear, but they actually had those like LED signs on the highway, and there's a east of Kansas City. I guess that's all been under construction so long. The local authorities have gotten used to dealing with crashes in construction zones. So, they brought in a bunch of LED signs. It said something about that I-70. I guess I-70 closed ahead past whatever exit. Thankfully, I was able to stop at a truck stop, and I spent about 20 minutes figuring out how to use the back roads and go around it. And I drove on the narrowest truck route I've ever driven on that had a 55-mile-an-hour posted speed limit. So that was interesting. Absolutely no shoulder. That's in Missouri, of course. And then the road's starting to wear away in certain spots. And then probably increased truck traffic, locals knowing to avoid the the backups, construction zone. That was fun. I think between that and the delays of, we added about an hour to the trip in total. Which probably, if I had just driven, stayed on the interstate, it probably would have been about an hour. But then, my aggravation, there at some point, it's just I got to tap out and put myself first and say, yeah, I'm not driving off into a fucking traffic jam. But I don't have to. This is crazy. I'll take my chances with the back road. So then I went ahead and parked at a Love's because there was one actually big enough to park at. Even then, I have to scrutinize the layout of the truck stop to make sure that there's some of those Loves have effectively no spaces where you can park overnight and not potentially get blocked in by the Somali pirates and such, or just lost Americans who don't either don't know any better or just don't give a fuck. Because I saw one. He was parking up, blocking people in, and there's spaces by 3 a.m., 2:30 a.m. People like me are leaving. So I gave him an earful. I said, "How would you like it if you were ready to leave, and I would just park my truck right in front of your truck? You couldn't leave. Well, how would you like that? Because that's what you're doing to all them people over there. What if one of them's going to start their shift in 5 minutes and you're in the store, or asleep in the fucking truck?" And I whether or not I have sympathy for people is irrelevant. I'm not saying people don't have reasons why they won't do better, or why even if they wanted to do better, they would find it damn near impossible. I mean, you could tell this is a younger fella, looked like skinny black fella, wasn't nothing to him. He could have been foreign, but he struck me as, maybe some inner city black, but a little scrawny guy. And like he's probably going through something. And something else I've realized with some of these, and I don't do this, what I'm describing here, because I understand some people will hear this and just, Benton will be portrayed as some version of a lunatic, and well, yeah, but this ain't that, right? But, I grew up with a healthy dose of strong male authority. And, in the limited interactions I've had, and like sort of in an authoritative fashion with the younger generation, and it's not their fault, but with the younger generations is some of them just have never been communicated to by a strong male presence, period. I don't think they even know what to do. And I started noticing something with a lot of these interrogation videos. A lot of the younger blacks, when they're in there with the detectives, who are sometimes female, but a lot of times are males, and a lot of these guys are mumbling, and they'll mumble, "Yes, ma'am," because they're so used to only having a woman be the one who sort of dresses them down and putting them in their place. So they got kind of their body language is indicating that they feel guilty and ashamed and all of this, and they're mumbling, "Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am." But it's dudes. It's like they've never even said "yes, sir" because they've never had an actual man. They've had no attention from a strong man ever. It's just never happened. in their whole life. And then this is how delusional the boomers are. The boomers want to still believe and think as if it's some version of 1988 or 1996. It's like, what are you talking about? You got multiple generations of young folks, some of whom have never had any sort of positive, authoritative interaction with a man, a masculine man. It's never happened, right? So how is there gonna be and again, let's not forget what I saw in Virginia. I looked over the overpass and it was like 8 fucking white male, rootin' tootin', physically fit white males getting marched around by a woman, right? Where's the strong authoritative male presence? Because I don't know, whatever strings were pulled to keep my famous grandfather out of World War II. And I'm realizing a lot of like the famous stories from my family just involves, hey, like all the male Bentons are fucking assholes. It's just like all of them apparently. And half the stories about my grandfather that are portrayed as positive is him being a fucking asshole. Like, in a way, I mean, similar to me, he seemed to have a talent, or maybe I'm similar to him in that generally making sure to make that I'm in the right and then be an asshole, but not just an asshole for the sake of being an asshole. Same thing here. Was I an asshole to these people? Yeah, potentially. But was I wrong? No. Anyway, some idea that my grandfather was on a elevator with some other fella, I guess a serviceman, maybe a sergeant or whatever. And the sergeant was, sizing up my grandfather and said some version of, you were in my unit, you'd be cannon fodder. And my grandfather said, buddy, if I was in your unit, I'd be running your unit, which is, I mean, probably the case, right? That's like the most Benton thing ever. Buddy, if I was in your unit, which really just saying, well, you wouldn't, if I was around, you're only in charge because I ain't around, homie. If I was there, you wouldn't be in charge in the first place. So it's kind of null and void. Like, false premise, sir. Sir, this is just can't happen. We're speaking on impossibilities. I'd be in charge, motherfucker. I'm the captain now. And not out of a like power hungry, just and again, an American believing that the cream rises to the top, because maybe my grandfather wouldn't be in charge, but maybe, Pat Tillman, right? Maybe they'd have fucking fratricided his ass. Maybe they'd have Tillmaned him right up out of there. Tillman was a hero on the NFL field, and then apparently went over to Afghanistan or wherever and was becoming a hero on the battlefield. And, an American soldier pointed a rifle at him and shot him through his eyes at about 30 yards, while Tillman apparently was yelling, "I'm Pat fucking Tillman." So is that your country that you want me to get on board with defending, all right? And saying, oh, this is just make America great again, greatest country ever. Hey, if this is the greatest country ever, this world is in some big trouble, man. Maybe it is the greatest country of all time. Would the greatest country ever have to constantly need to remind its citizens and the rest of the world that it's the greatest thing since sliced bread? Where's the logic in that? I thought the cream rose at the top. Going back and listening to Frank McCourt, whether embellished or invented or not, some of his memoirs, portions of his memoirs, showing how poor he lived in New York City in, I don't know, the 50s, late 50s, early 60s, I guess. I don't know. As a young man in New York, moving into apartments with shared bathrooms and meeting the neighbors and immediately being told, you better make sure to bring your own toilet paper because that's our toilet paper on the roll in the bathroom, and we mark it. We make sure that, so if you use our toilet paper, we'll know, and get your own. But here's a roll to get you started because that was my wife's idea, right? These type of stories. Hey, keep your fucking grubby mitts off my toilet paper, buddy. I mean, it's poverty, man. And then Americans just in horror, reacting in horror, now seemingly faced with their own, in some cases for the first time, with their own poverty. Motherfucker, it's been poverty the whole way through. Is it not possible to Jack Talcott the idea of poverty and just be in a delusion? Is it not possible to be delusional and in denial? Everybody that has to wake up more days than not and go to a place and do a thing, or, even if it's in their own home or remote, whatever they have to do, whatever it is, if they can't stop doing that thing indefinitely and see their lifestyle continue, they're poor, period. Every American who can't just say right now, I'm done with these activities, that's a rich person. A rich person, Mark Cuban today could just say, you know what, I'm sick of all this. I'm not dealing with this. This is crazy. Make some calls, make some arrangements, and just go kick it indefinitely. Up to and including the rest of his life. His present lifestyle will not change at all. He'll still be able to go to the places he goes to. He'll still be able to purchase what he purchases. He'll still be able to run in the same circles. Now, something I've identified is that, the function of the economy is to make rich people richer every new moment into perpetuity, and it never fails to achieve its purpose. And the reason how that's facilitated because a rich person, if they don't see their wealth grow and increase every new moment, they don't know who they are. They go into existential crisis and they say, well, hell, maybe we're not. Maybe we actually don't fit in with the rest of these wealthy people. See? So all the wealthy people, in order to be in the wealthy people club, they all have to continue to get richer. And how does that happen? There's only one way that rich people get richer. They take it from poor folks. Now, whether directly or indirectly, whether through legal or illegal means. Bottom line, end of the day, rich people are rich because they've taken their wealth from poor folks. By definition. Period, end of story. And that's not oh, you really think that's how they feel and this and that? And feelings have nothing to do with it. That's the actions that result in them being rich, and it creates poor people. You can't have rich people without poor people. It's not possible. So, war on poverty. Well, that's just like a war on drugs. Well, there's going to be drugs, there's going to be poverty, period. I mean, separate from each other. Those two things are going to exist. And that'll immediately get run through a left-right paradigm, right? And it'll be politicized. So if people don't want to face the truth of what I'm saying, they'll just say, well, that's liberal, right? Well, I'm unconcerned about this fantasy land where any and all phenomena can be categorized as so-called liberal or so-called conservative. What's that have to do with me? Okay. You got two gigantic containers, and every concept is placed into one of the two containers. So what? What does that have to do with anything? That sounds like ideology to me. That sounds like the practice of adherence to ideology, which is to be a slave or imprisoned by the ideology. Well, what I am can't be a prisoner. What I am can't be enslaved. Therefore, whether conservative or liberal, those can't be people who are following God, whatever that means, air quotes, so-called God. You can't be a Christian and a Republican. Hate to break it to you. Is it possible to subscribe to and follow a political ideology and to simultaneously follow the teachings of the Lord Christ Jesus as outlined in the Holy Bible? That doesn't seem possible to me. Because to adhere to ideology is to be a slave to the ideology. I thought the Bible said man cannot serve two masters. So the only way to be a so-called Republican, that has to be the master. That ideology has to be the master. And the individual is the slave to that master. Period. So in order to be properly identified with what I am, I must practice freedom, meaning I can't put anything between my performance and freedom itself, because otherwise, if I express as anything less than actual freedom, that's a violation. That's treating the blessing of what I am is free. Well, that's if I treat what I am as if it could possibly ever be enslaved by anything whatsoever, up to and including ideology, that's to treat blessing as if it were a curse. So when people like enslaved by truth, or maybe chalk by the outline, I started to bring him up earlier, and then I moved off of the topic. So, and you know, I'm just observing and report. Well, Benton is observing and reporting. So to subscribe to these various ideologies, that is blasphemy in the Holy Spirit if that individual is possessed of Nancy Pelosi's MS-13 spark of divinity, aka this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. If every person is imbued with those deep down, right, the ability to become the so-called sons of God, and if the Bible is accurate when it talks about the only unforgivable sin, blasphemy in the Holy Spirit, then the way they're living, I haven't seen it, but if what they claim is true, they themselves, if they are possessed of this spark of divinity, they are cursed. They're treating that spark as if it were a curse. They're doing that individually in their life. Benton ain't the judge. What I am, the lack of what I am, is judgment. To fall under judgment is to be forever cut off from the spirit of what I am. See, the inverted world hears what I'm saying and says, well, you ain't the judge. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'll take that concept and invert it and say, the judgment is when, have you considered my servant Job? And Job fails to authoritatively, assertively show and prove what he is, consistent with what I am is the way, what I am is the truth, what I am is the life. That's judgment. Judgment is when the being is considered and found lacking, and therefore never was the genuine article or the real thing in the first place. That's why it's the unforgivable sin. There's no coming back from that. That's to be cut off. See? Now, what I would say is the real thing can't never be cut off from the larger force, because in order for that to happen, the larger force would have to be divisible. You can't, only within delusion can there even be the possibility of seeming to experience an individual, to have an individuated experience. Now we're already off into delusion and illusion. And there's no arguing against that. One either accepts that what Christ referred to as I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life, that is a force that can never be divided, because the moment it can be divided, it could potentially be divided against itself. And if it can potentially be divided against itself, it cannot ever be representative of supreme beingness. These are impossibilities. Don't you get it? And Benton is not going to waste his time humoring the nonsense that goes along with things. The moment I am certain of an impossibility, I'm not going to entertain that foolishness. In fact, what I am will not entertain that foolishness. So this idea that it's not loving and that it's somehow unloving and intolerant to get in the grill of some of these truckers, well, what I am can't fucking abide that. See, what I am won't abide some of these things. See? And it can never be unrighteous or incorrect for what I am to express in a way that acknowledges, hey, this is wrong. What you're doing, sir, is wrong. Oh, well, you ain't the judge. Oh, I'm happily explain to you what the judgment is if you'd like. You got a minute? You don't even know what judgment is, motherfucker. What better way to fall what better way to fall under judgment than to not even know what the fuck judgment is in the first place? Partner. Do you see the trap? Outmaneuvered from day one, sacrificed to Moloch's machine. I don't know what's going on. Now there's just a group of trucks descending upon me, but they catch up to me, but they have a lot of trouble passing. Why do I have to go 57 to get trucks to pass me that have caught up to me? I don't understand what's happening here. Well, part of it is this realm doesn't have real physics in the conventional sense. See, the physics can't ever be 100% real. That's not possible, because that would fail to account for waking dream, surrealistic, unreality, deja vu all over again. You can't have 100% authentic physics in this place. It's not possible. Because if you could have 100% real physics, then this would actually be a physical realm. It's not. It's pseudo-physical. Pseudo-physical. How do you know that, Benton? Because I know what I am. And in grasping and observing and knowing what I am, I understand that what this place is the inverse or the removal. Take what I am and remove it. That's this place. Take what I am. When Christ said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life, start with that. Take it away. Whatever's left is this world of death and game of lies. This is what remains. This is the butcher's leavings. This is what's left behind. This is the excrement. This is the waste. Whatever's left behind after love leaves town. That's this place. And that's why it has to continue to tell you that it's a world of abundance and natural beauty and just, oh my God, how wonderful it is. It's dead. Can something dead be wonderful? All they that hate, air quote, so-called God love death. If God is the way, the truth, and the life, everybody that hates that loves death. Oh, look at how wonderful the natural beauty is. Look at how abundant the world is. It's dead. How can something dead be wonderful? Is that possible? No. So start with wonder of wonders, the way, the truth, and the life. Remove that. Whatever's left, unceasingly call that wondrous. That's the loving of death. Confused ones. How is Benton able to suss all this out? Maybe he talked to the criminal. Get behind me, Satan, because Satan's got no choice. Satan don't have free will. Satan has to follow. Satan don't have free will. Satan is when you start with I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life, and you remove that. Whatever's left has to follow orders. It can't freely manifest. It can't righteously express. Therefore, it is a slave to law. It is a slave to specific behavior, and it treats you like you're a slave to behavior. And pretty soon, guess what? Your own behavior, your own thoughts, your own beliefs, and your own actions begins to mimic all of that. Because you, more often than not, falsely identify with this place, aka you, most of the time, are falsely identified with death, when in reality, what you are may actually be symbolically representative of supreme beingness itself. Now, I won't ever know that because solipsism contextually is absolutely valid, just like nihilism contextually is absolutely valid. And we're preaching so much truth, they can't pass us. There's so much truth just oozing out of us, they can't even pass us on the road. And they're trying to tuck in at 55 when I done slowed down. Because that's how much truth is just oozing out of my pores right now. That's what I am. Is that truth? See? By what authority, sir? I'm glad you asked. The authority of what I am. Highest possible authority. Hey, Lord, where do we look for the kingdom? Inside yourself. Now, he didn't comment on whether or not it will actually be found there that I'm aware of. I'm going to need to go back and make a study of the so-called red letter portions of the scripture, but the Holy Bible anyway. And I'm going to go ahead and read your mind, some of you, and I'll quote one of my favorites, Dick Gregory. Truth don't have to be validated by your ignorance. Meaning, I understand there's all sorts of thoughts and emotions and things that are cropping up within the energy sphere to say, well, what about this? What about that? Truth, as it's manifesting, is not required to be validated by your ignorance. What do I mean by your ignorance? I mean, if within you, buried deep, is that Nancy Pelosi MS-13 spark of divinity, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. If that's inside of you, and I have no way of knowing if it is or if it's not, the fact that you haven't uncovered it and are not righteously manifesting in this moment based on proper identification within yourself, based on true knowledge of self/self-realization, that's the definition of ignorance. Anything short of uncovering and walking the righteous, perfected path that may abide within is to act and think and experience in your ignorance. And manifesting truth does not, there is no requirement for truth as it manifests to be validated by your ignorance. TBE. That's your ignorance. That don't belong to me. That's never belonged to me. It can't belong to me. That's dead and it belongs to your dead flesh. Why are you identified with your dead flesh? Motherfuckers who can't even transcend the death of their own flesh are going to tell me something. How is a being that hasn't even figured out how to transcend the death of their flesh going to tell me anything whatsoever? You're going to have to walk it like I walk it, partner. You want to get my attention? Internally bootstrap, motherfucker. Put the substances down and walk like I walk. Because I'm walking till one of these days I'm gonna put the employment down. One of these days I've done put the tax paying down. One of these days I'm gonna put the handling of money down. I done put the substances down. I never picked up the psych meds. I never went to the mental health services. You think TBE's never been to mental health services? Are you crazy? You think that motherfucker ain't never been on a psych hold? And he's one of the strongest ones in the so-called truth community trying to tell everybody like it is. That's to be of this world. Motherfucking psychiatric patients or somebody who probably should be one gonna tell us how it is. Bitch, please. But hey, this world will treat you like you're a criminal if you let it. Pretty much every day, this world treats me like I have to be guilty of something. The world is guilty. What I am can't ever be guilty. It's not possible. That's righteousness. Righteousness is to exist in a state where guilt can't happen. Unrighteousness cannot express in that state. It's not possible. And that's the greatest controversy. There is no higher or greater controversy here. That's the entire, not the entire, that's the main thrust and function of Christianity, is that when righteousness does express in this form, that there's already, the public has already been indoctrinated to reject and say, well, there's no righteous man possible because there already was that man. His name was Jesus, and you ain't him. I don't know what to tell you. Jesus said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. What I'm saying is that what I am is the way, what I am is the truth, and what I am is the life. That's what I'm saying. So if you want to construe that as I'm saying I'm Jesus, that's what you say. I said no such thing. And why is every vehicle on the road doing its damn best to try to stick with me right now? And I mean every vehicle. But the 100% of them are catching up to me, and 100% of them are trying to ride with me, baby. Because that's what righteousness is. That's what truth is. It's so attractive. It's so appealing. See, what I got, better get some. Get on up. Hustler of culture. Everybody sacrificed to Moloch's machine is a hustler of culture. I'm doing it right now. The bitten within the dead flesh. And what's Benton's dead flesh doing? Engaged in commerce. Right fucking now. In a world of death and a game of lies. And see, that's what's funny about Stick with Benton, right? This idea of external leadership. This is what I mean about contextual nihilism. There is no, sometimes when Benton's driving, people can just detect this spiritually and they're attracted to it. They want to be near it. That does them no good. They can't follow that and be led anywhere. Because the moment danger happens or the moment things go south, I will leave you out I will hang your bitch ass out to dry. Quick, fast, in a hurry. Every man for himself style. Oh, you thought I was leading the way and I was in charge? I'll pull up just short of wherever you think I'm leading you to, and I'll give you as you you become confused and wonder why you're now passing me up. I'll just give you a gentle push. I'll just gently push you forward and say, hey, you're in charge. You're the captain now, motherfucker. They'll go all wide-eyed and say, well, wait a minute. I thought we was following you, Benton. Oh, that ain't even possible. What gave you that idea? That can't fucking happen. You can't follow me. You can try to figure out if what I am is inside of you. Can you find it and follow? And then that's the leadership. That is leadership. That is authority. That is love. That is creation. You think you're gonna follow around the dead flesh? You gonna render unto Caesar, motherfucker? You gonna be rendered. You gonna be rendered. And these obese land whales at the truck stop, boy, they fattened up for the rendering. Go to the dictionary. What does render mean in the first place? I'm pretty sure it doesn't mean pay your taxes. Oh, but Saul of Tarsus, what, bastardized some of Christ's words and twisted them to make it seem like you have to pay taxes? Fuck you. I don't have to do anything. Here's a list of things Benton has to do within this protracted experience of death. Air quotes live and air quotes die. That's it. And increasingly, I'm not sure those are even different things in the context of what this world calls life and what this world calls death. Because what I am will never experience what this world thinks life is, and I'll never experience what this world thinks death is. Now, only within delusion. I've imagined that I've experienced various forms of those things. Boy, we sure are living now. Oh well, you got to earn a living. That's not even possible? What are you talking about? What I am can't be earned. You can't. And that's an inversion. It's an inversion to assert that what I am could ever be attained, put on, or earned. Nope. The lack of what I am can't ever aspire or attain to what I am. It can't be earned. It can't be attained. See? So the lack of what I am, it's confused. It doesn't understand because it cannot experience on those levels. You're welcome to the discourse. Now do something with it. Or don't. Yoda, bitch. Do or do not. There is no try. Do or do not. There is no try. The church is of this world. Everything that's of this world is dead, aka Satan. What's Satan? Death. Satan is death. All they that hate so-called air quotes God, love, death, or Satan. That's not the enemy. That's the phenomenon that makes an enemy of what I am, because that's really all it can do. It is antithesis. This world is antichrist. You got Peter Thiel running around supposedly lecturing about antichrist. Oh, you mean this system of things, this world, this realm, this Russian nesting dolls of contextual delusions? Is that what you mean? Is that what you mean? And the raisers of all bets in the poker game of this protracted experience of death, they just make a bet or they raise every bet. They say, it's on you, Benton. It's on you, criminal. And that's this realm. The delusion of time, space, location, place. The delusion of the present moment. Now it's here, now it's gone. Now it's here, now it's gone. Every present moment. Would you like to treat blessing as if it were a curse? Would you like to treat blessing as if it were a curse? The raisers of all bets show themselves for what they are and which master they serve. They show themselves because they raise all the bets. And they say, it's on you. And they point the finger. They say, it's on you. It's on you. It's on you. They point at you and treat you like you're the criminal. And pretty soon it's the person is behaving like the criminal because they've Stockholm syndrome. They're ran through. They're so identified with the system. See. Now at least the raisers of all bets, at least they receive the message of make the tree good or make the tree rotten. They're serving their master Satan. It's everybody else that's lukewarm. So you got the new Adam, Benton here right now, representing the new Adam. I said it. If somebody wants to construe that into I'm calling myself Jesus, they're free to say that. I don't have a dog in that hunt. Benton, in the context of the performance, doing business as, DBAing, new Adam. The human condition is to be born the original Adam, a living soul. What happens to the living soul when it enters into the dead flesh and enters into a world of death and game of lies? In short order, it is sacrificed by its parents, most usually, to Moloch, one of the deities, one of the dead deities of this world of death and game of life. And make no mistake, Moloch takes no shorts. Only the highest possible offering will be accepted by Moloch. The innocent, pure, spiritually perfect child in the dead flesh, in delusion. The cream, the value, the substance. So the Bible defines the new Adam, or the second Adam, was made a quickening spirit. One of the major points of the Christ story is to have started where everybody else begins, spiritually perfected in the dead flesh, aka the so-called Son of Man, and then to only ever be properly identified based on what I am is the way, what I am is the truth, what I am is the life. That example of perfection to show, hey, humanity, this is what is possible. Come up out of your confusion. Become the sons of God. Become the new Adam. Become a quickening spirit, living soul. You were made a living soul with the potential to become a living spirit. Now, within the context of this place and the delusion of individuation, because my own seemingly individuated experiences in the way, I have no way of knowing what you may or may not be. That's your business, partner. You're going to have to go talk to that potential criminal. Because it's either a criminal, it's either the criminal, which is what? What's the criminal? The lack of supreme beingness, the lack of potential righteousness. Have you considered my servant Job? Well, Job can only be considered because there has to be at least a potential for righteous expression, right? If there was no potential for righteous expression, how could air quote so-called God ever say, have you considered my servant Job? How could God, air quote so-called, ever claim a servant who doesn't at least have the potential for righteous expression, aka the original Adam or a descendant of the original Adam, a living soul? And then Job's either going to, after we test him in the process of being tested, he's either going to become and manifest as a quickening spirit right here, right motherfucking now, and show this place what he is, or he was never that thing in the first place. Bitch. Tell me something. Ain't tell me nothing. If you mind your P's and Q's and get the fuck up out your own way, move some of them piles of death out of the way. Remove some of them restrictions out of your vision. Then you may be able to pick up some of what's being elucidated here. Maybe. Took me 15 motherfucking years of daily work. That's a lot of piles of death to be shoveled off of this perfected path that lay within or abided within and continues to abide within. Start digging, motherfucker, because you digging whether you like it or not. Who is listening to the sound of my voice and ain't digging? What are you digging in service of? I was just at the truck stop. Most of them digging their own grave. They grave digging. Maybe there's something like what I was about 5 years ago. Maybe they think they found a loophole up out of here. Maybe they think they found a loophole up out of here. Said shit, we'll just let the fast food kill us. Benton thought he was going to let the alcohol kill him. Well, you can't kill death. How you going to kill death? If hate drives out hate, if death can drive out death, then Satan's kingdom is divided against itself, and how can it stand? That's Christ saying Satan don't have a kingdom. Satan's kingdom is death. Death can't stand. Death can't stand up. Death can conspire to convince you to hold yourself back. That's what death can do. And in that being convinced to hold oneself back, one begins the process of dying. Old Adam style, original Adam style, the rebel. The woman, the evildoer, cursed with childbearing. Why was Adam not cursed with that? Well, Adam done fucked up when Eve showed up with the fruit. He was supposed to say, woman, what have you done? Get the fuck away from me with that. He decided to join Eve. See, that was where he done fucked up. Eve got cursed with childbearing. And what does this world teach us to venerate above all? Motherhood. Motherhood. Oh, interesting. Interesting. When properly identified, Benton is in a state of purity. Yep. Purity. Oh, you claim righteousness? You're damn right I do. Because hey, if it's expressing as 99% righteousness, it's impure. Therefore, it is in the process of dying. It ain't the real thing. It never was. The real thing can't die. The real thing can't express unrighteously. It's not possible. So you can take the real thing and you can seemingly imprison it within death. The dead flesh makes no matter. It quickens and expresses righteously anyway. Because death can't touch it. The flesh can't touch it. What I am can't be touched by the flesh or death. Doesn't know what I don't know what you're talking about. Ignorance. We don't validate based on ignorance. What I am doesn't. That's a violation. Woo! Freedom. That's free. That's freedom. And what I am, if it could, would desire to package that freedom and uh, distribute it and gift it. That ain't possible here. That cannot happen here. Because why? Because this place is considering this place is considering Job. That's why. Or the new Adam is being considered. Its weight is being taken. Its measurement is being taken. Thesis and antithesis are engaged in spiritual war, and they're hashing it the fuck out. They're hashing it the fuck out. You're the substrate. Benton was the substrate. Not anymore. That war is no longer happening within my flesh. That's what I mean by a state of purity. There's a war going on outside no man is safe from, and that's true. What I am is not a man. Oh, you're not a man, Benton? Well, I have a man, and I don't get your minds out of the gutter. The experience, the delusion is in the context of a man, in this impossibility of a physical realm and a physical body. That's not possible. Only when accounting for waking dreams, surrealistic, unreality, deja vu all over again is this physical flesh possible, the hormone levels possible, right? The visage, the physical appearance. If we go 100% real, actual reality, not possible. This is the manifestation. This is the substrate. This is the battlefield. The spiritual war, the battlefield of the spiritual war is your dead flesh. And it's individual and it's collective. It's both simultaneously. Because both are equally dead or equally delusional, just in different ways. See? Assertion or thesis, and then lack of assertion or antithesis. Quickening spirit, Christ consciousness. Inverse, antichrist, aka this world of death, game of lies. It's Christ birthed into antichrist. Worshipper and worship, object of worship contained within the same space, encased within a world of death and a game of lies. That's the external. Internal is encased within dead flesh. That's what this is. That's what is happening. Whatever your opinion is representative of ignorance. Not my problem. Your ignorance is not my problem. How you feel about being potentially called ignorant, not my problem. Oh, Benton done figured it out. Benton has the answers contextually, meaning I have the answers inside of me, on behalf of me, in service of me. See, it is completely individual in that way. I can't convey that to you. I can speak on it. And then whatever you do with whatever is going on inside of you is on you. Has nothing to do with me. That is the judgment, by the way. Oh, well, you ain't the judge. You're absolutely right. What I am is the result of having been judged and made the cut. See, this world is a process of judgment if what you are is what I am. Benton is representing the quickening spirit. or what spirituality and religion might refer to as the idea of an illuminated or ascended one. What I am is illuminated and ascended. Of course it is. It's the quickening spirit. It's how could it be anything else? Oh, you claim that? You're goddamn right I do, because that's what is. And if I knew a shortcut to uncovering and bringing that forth and walking that path within myself, I would have taken the shortcut. Thus proving there is no shortcut that I'm aware of that I can teach to you. That's what this world, that's what Christ meant when he said, beware the false Christ. That's the one who shows up and said, here's your shortcut. Because we all know you're not going to put the work in and day out. You're going to work every day, part of the day for 15, every day for 15 years, and then still maybe not attain it, still maybe not uncover it. I did it for every day for 15 years and was willing to keep doing it for another 15. Bitch. Until you show and prove some version of that, you ain't on my level. But psychologically, they will still aspire to those heights and look down on me and think that they can ascend to a higher level and look up down on me and try to say, there, little Benton, little initiate. You've learned a thing or two. Like, what I am is knowledge. What are you talking about? Learned a thing or two. You crazy. Are you going to speak for me? You better talk to the criminal. What I am can't be spoken for in that way. Because what I am represents or presents itself, see. Anything claiming to represent what I am proves itself to not be what I am. And you are not going, if you hear Benton claiming to represent that in any way other than symbolic, meaning as a earthly representative with a product to sell or an organization to join, you can't show up and hang out with Benton. Not in that way, not in a formal, organized sense. Ain't no cult to join. Krishnamurti, bitch. You think you're going to create some organization and hand the keys over to me? There's the Krishnamurti story. They wanted a cult leader so bad, they made the cult first and went out and found Krishnamurti and more or less made him into what they thought they wanted and then turned the keys over to him. He said, hey, don't give me them keys. You give me them keys, I'm shutting the fucking engine off. And that's exactly what he did, according to the story anyway. I mean, I wasn't there. I don't know what actually happened. Seems plausible to me. That's good enough. And see, that's plausible is good enough for this world. See, it just needs to be plausible in its appropriate time. So when Alex Jones, when 15 years ago, I was learning everything there was to learn about the so-called Epstein files from listening to the Alex Jones show. See, it wasn't yet plausible to the general public. So there was really no so-called danger in publicizing that. See. And so everything I've heard, and I'm not looking into it, but everything that's trickled out, absolutely every single thing I've heard about these Epstein files, I heard about on the Alex Jones show well over 10 years ago. Yeah. Government info / disinfo agent, Alex Jones. So you got one government agent now running around, talking shit on Joe Rogan, another government agent. And it's possible that both men are unaware of their own agent status. Meanwhile, I'll reintroduce you to the concept of what I call a sysagent or systems agent. And what I said was, as far as I can tell, within the dead flesh, every individual, whether they like it or not, and whether or not they know it, they function as agents of the system. Yes, including Benton, at least in the past. Maybe not now. Right? And see, keeping this highway of commerce open is more important than these human lives, because there was somebody operating some equipment back there who, if I hadn't noticed them, I potentially could have ended their life right then with this big rig. And the realm is willing to sacrifice that person potentially to keep the flow of commerce happening. See, death, the transacting of death. Bathroom break. Oh yeah. Y'all know they're not paying the TSA at the airport, right? People talk about the job market and the wages and all of this. What about when they just stop paying you entirely? Oh well, they were reimbursed last time. What's that? What's that have to do with anything? I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. That's the government. The government is telling the TSA workers, I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. The government is, what was his name from Popeye? Was that Wimpy? I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. The government is a beggar because the government is whatever the fat cat rich folks tell it to be. Because the government can't do anything that money and power don't make it do. So if the government is not paying the TSA workers, that's because money and power said, hey, stop paying the TSA workers. And everybody knows that people aren't going to do anything about it. You want to start a so-called revolution, book a flight, pull out your phone when you get to the TSA person, make sure that they actually work for the government, because apparently in some airports they don't have, it's privatized. Make sure that they're a federal employee, whip your phone out and make a YouTube short if you have a channel, and or whatever social media you use, and give them $100. Say, well, if the government's not going to pay you, I guess the people are going to have to do it. Watch that shit go viral. You think say, oh, well, the system wouldn't let that happen. You think the system doesn't want people to see that? Of course it does. The system is what's not paying them in the first place. It has its reasons. It ain't trying to hide it. It's national fucking news as far as I can tell. See, that's what Kaczynski was writing about when he makes the convincing case that all revolutions and uprisings and movements that originate from within the system will, in the end, only ever serve to strengthen and perpetuate the system itself. See, that would actually just help the system. Now, not the giving of the $100 that's one thing, but I'm talking about the clip going viral. And maybe even Americans would just start showing up with cash and handing it to the TSA. Even that is going to play into the hands of the system in the long run. See, that's the game as it's set up, because it's treating the individual and putting them in a position where no matter what action they take, they cannot so-called win. So, and that's the idea of the only winning move is not to play. Well, I would say that's not quite right. The fact that what I am is victory. It only in that context it expresses that way by never playing a so-called losing move. It can't play a move that's a losing move. It's not capable of doing that. It's infallible in that way. An infallibility. See? Oh, but a human can't be perfect. Well, what's a human then? So you're telling me that there can't be a perfected being that's known as a spirit, and then you're telling me that spirit can't inhabit flesh? Is that what that's not possible? And a so-called Christian might go along with this line of thinking, and in fact could unknowingly agree with things that the result of which is, well, they themselves don't believe in the concept of Christ, as at least from the story from the Bible. Christ did is either possible or not. It was possible in his time, and it's still possible, or it wasn't possible in his time, and it's not possible now. Christ and those achievements, if it happens, see, it has to be duplicatable today. It has to be duplicatable. It has to be duplicatable. Good thing I was speeding, but I wasn't really speeding because there's a state trooper back there in the construction zone. I was only going 5 over, but we got super trucker back there going about 10 to 15 over. And I don't know if the cop noticed him or not. He might be in a world of hurt in a minute. Sometimes they're only really looking for cars, though. They leave us alone for the most part. Oh, my earbuds are dying. I got the wrong earbuds in. Hang on. What a mess. Are we back? Are we back? Let's check the mic here. Mic check. All right, I think we're back. And so here's Saul of Tarsus to teach in the Bible that there's no possibility of achieving that state of righteous perfection. It cannot happen. Which is the same as, in some way, if you think about it, it's the same as saying Jesus never happened in the first place. Not possible. It's either possible or it's not possible. And if Jesus was a man, as the Bible claims, then it's possible for other men. Period. It cannot be both ways. It's either possible, and Christ was, born in the way the Bible describes, or it's not possible. Christ was a human being, Jesus, or not. And if Jesus was a human being, the achievement is possible by other human beings. And if someone doesn't agree, it's the same as saying, well, there potentially never was a Christ in the first place. It's the same. I just showed you that with logic. John 14:26, I will send the Comforter, which is the Holy Ghost, and that will teach you all things and bring unto your remembrance whatsoever I have said to you. Meaning, outside of this, what I'm saying to you right now, whatever was said by anybody up to and including me in any other context does not pertain to this. This is true. This is true. This is valid. Doesn't matter what false Christ Saul of Tarsus said later on. Oh, he didn't claim to be Christ. Well, he claimed a direct experience of Christ, transformative experience, claimed to be ordained by the Lord Christ Jesus as an apostle. Right. Well, is the being supposed to stop at ordination, or is the being supposed to continue on to manifesting the resurrection of the risen, ascended Christ within? Ain't that the whole point of the 4-minute mile? Because somebody ran the first sub 4-minute mile and then a whole bunch of other motherfuckers did it. Or I guess mile in the 4-minute range. I don't know. Whatever that is. Sub 5-minute mile, I guess. Less than 5 minutes. I don't know. However the math works out on that. Let's just call it the first 4-minute mile. And then right after seeing it happen, a bunch of other motherfuckers did it in short order. Isn't that the whole point of Christ? Hey, it's happened for the first time that we know of. Aren't a bunch of other motherfuckers supposed to see that and then do it themselves? Isn't that the entire point? Because otherwise is what? Vanity, arrogance, egoism. Wouldn't the aren't there people who would want to be the only person to ever run a 4-minute mile? Aren't there a lot of sportsmen who, if they could slam the door shut on their records ever being broken, that they would absolutely do that if they could? Of course they would. Not Christ. Christ don't have what Christ is and was don't have that in him, because the only way for him to have that would have been to falsely identify. And if he was falsely identified, see, then he wasn't in purity. See? And so some of this is to set this impossible standard to say, well, so it's actually Christianity itself teaches that Christ is not possible. That's just the reality. It doesn't frame it that way. It doesn't say it that way. That is the teaching. If you boil down the teachings of Paul, that's what it comes down to is it invalidates the possibility of Christ's achievement. Thank you, mental pancakes. It invalidates the what? The metaphysical, or the there's a term for this, the mystical aspects of the experience. See, it nullifies the possibility through doctrine and dogma, which are both ways to say death. Dogma's dead. Doctrine is dead. Scripture itself is dead. The so-called word of God can't be dead. See, it can't be dead. Where am I at here? I don't know what road I'm supposed to be on. I think I'm on the right road, maybe. I don't know. We'll find out. Of course, there was cars to swoop in and block the way if I was in the wrong lane. Just magically appeared out of nowhere. That never happens. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Maybe they're there to help me. It's like, well, yeah, we prevented you from going the wrong way, sir. Okay, fair enough. Mysticism. Internal. Study and follow the teachings of the Apostle Paul, and that creates a situation where there can never be Messiah or Christ. Well, that's one Jew who served his master to the end. Old Saul of Tarsus. He did his job, did he not? And Chalk Body Outline himself commented to EBT truthers. He said, first they said, hey, at least Charlie Kirk would talk about Jesus. And then one of them, I forget which one said which. And then it was like, yeah, I don't trust anybody who won't recognize Jesus. And then he threw in, or Paul. You telling me that the only way I can accept Christ is to accept the church? That's a lie. That's a lie. It's a lie. And if you follow that lie far enough, the lie itself through doctrine and dogma leads to a place where Christ himself wasn't even possible in the first place. And I've proven it on here in this discourse solely with logic and reason. So clearly it's all there for the taking. And confusion's a choice. Slavery is a choice. It's to choose to identify with a world of death and a game of lies. And like I said yesterday, most people like this world. Most people like this dead world. Might be coming into St. Louis. I'd like to get to St. Louis early enough to miss the, they do have a little bit of a rush hour in the morning. Nothing too crazy, but it's still a rush hour. And just, I look at my mirror, there's 100 cars back there. There's nothing in front of me. There's 100 cars back there. How's that possible? 0 cars ahead, 100 cars in my rear view. Speed limit 65, I'm going 55. There's 100 cars back there.
just descending upon me and just attaching to me and riding me to the promised land. Wow, 357 at the Murphy in west side of St. Louis. That's rich people taking from poor people. That's all that is. That's rich folks uh, vacuuming up what little crumbs are left to the poor. We'll take that. You won't be needing that. We'll take that. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.